Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Here we go. Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest on the line, the brother Kirk Franklin.
What's up, beautiful people, man? It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here. And I want to make sure, if I need to take this, bandana off, trying to come this morning with a little sauce. If I need to take it off, I'll take it off. I don't want to be distracted.
I like your Christian Crip vibes. It's nice.
It looks like you have a fresh haircut too. Can I see that line on the side?
Yeah,
You got
Okay.
you got
Look
the
at
barber
that.
coming by?
No, as I went to go.
Kirk, let me tell you something.
Don't lie to us, Kirk.
I watched you. I watched the good brother Bishop T.D. Jakes. I watched Fred Hammond all in the studio together with no damn mask on. Now, I believe in God too, and I got faith.
But
It's real.
We were taking temps. Everybody that came into the studio, we were taking temps. And it's very difficult to be able to speak to the people and communicate in an effective way when we're having to do it in a mask. So, we were doing the best we can. But for the sake of hope and encouraging the people, we put ourselves out there.
Well, thank you so much for that Verzuz battle on Sunday. That was amazing. And I think
Wow,
timing-wise,
great
the timing couldn't have been any better at all because we all needed that.
Man, no, I was very humble when Swiss and Tim hit me. It was something that I would never do in a normal situation, not because I think the platform is not super dope. I just think that in, gospel music or Christian music, just because we talk about, someone bigger than us, to try to say, that the music God gave me is doper than the music God gave you, just kind of, would have not always reflected what I think the bigger story is, but because we were able to do it for the people, and we were able to do it for something that had a bigger narrative, I thought it was a great moment.
Yeah, it wasn't a battle. We don't call it a battle. It's giving each other flowers. It's kind of repping each other and represent each other. So I know we call it a versus, but it's more like giving artists and producers and writers their flowers while they're here, and we definitely needed that one this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's fun because it's basically two dope artists with each other that y'all respect each other or you wouldn't do it,
Wow. Well, I'm even mad humbled that, you three even tuned in and saw some of it, man. It's like, because, it's really humbling when this music can speak to people outside of the four walls and for people to be able to see, just how dope and how big God is, even in the midst of all of these missteps that have happened throughout history with talking about Jesus Christ and to be able to understand the sensitivities that come with that and historical texts, but still be able to give people a message that can be able to let them know that there's something bigger than what we can see, that if what you see is all you see, then you do not see all there is to be seen. And that's Tony Evans. So.
Now, Kirk, that sounds great, but who won? Who you think won now? Come on. All that sounds
As I hope that gospel music won. You dig? I hope that gospel music looked fresh. I hope that people, can see, just because when you look at all the genres of music that are curated by people of color, a lot of times gospel music is one of the lower hanging fruits, you dig? And so to be able to, just to be able to be on that big platform, to be able to keep it a buck with people about, the hurt and pain and to be able to see the entertaining, DNA of gospel music as well, that was pretty fresh for us to be able to present that to culture.
Now,
And we won for being able to watch. We won.
Super dope.
Now, what do you tell your people that are your fans that follow you right now with everything that's going on, from COVID-19, coronavirus to the protest and what happened with George Floyd? What are you telling your people?
Man, it's I try to say that I don't understand everything, that I weep with those that weep and I mourn with those who mourn, that a lot of times it's not necessary to always throw a Bible scripture at every freaking thing. A lot of times you just got to be silent and feel the pain with people. And when the opportunity permits itself, then you give them another narrative and another optic of what faith can look like. And you do life with people, man. As I think that what has made this moment also divine as well as painful is that we all on the same level. Like there's not a person, if you had a 10,000 member church, or if you used to do church in your mama front living room, we all got the same church now, because the only way people can hear you is through these devices right here. And so we're all in the middle of this pain. And so I just try to be on the front line in the middle of the struggle with my people.
And one touching moment was you had Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, actually called in, and that was a tear-jerking moment for that to happen. But it was also inspirational as well.
Thank you. And I was very intentional about that. Like I hunted her down when this Verzuz situation came up. I was like, we need an element that can remind us. And here's the unfortunate thing: we are having so many Black soldiers fall during this civil war that a lot of times you can forget the soldier before the soldier. You dig? And so I just thought that it would be a very powerful moment for this beautiful queen to know that even in the midst of Mr. Floyd's suffering, that we also know that before Mr. Floyd was Mr. Arbery. And so sometimes as a mom, I can only imagine that you may forget that people move on from yours. And I want her to know that the pain is transferable and that we see you as well and we remember you and we got you.
Kirk, you got a single called Strong God, and it talks about racism and the human race needing healing. Did you have this song already made prior to the death of George Floyd, or was this a result of his murder?
Man, I wrote this song last year. And I put it on the latest album, Long Live Love, and had no idea that it would be an evergreen moment. But you know what, at the same time, we've been in this state for many years. And so these topics, unfortunately, these topics are evergreen. And so you can do a song like that 30, 40 years from now. You can do Marvin Gaye and still have that conversation today. And I think that that's what pisses the people that are in the middle of this off, is because we should be writing new lyrics. Right. We should be having new conversation. But unfortunately, we are always having to open back up the same one. And so that is a problem. It's a problem for culture. It's a problem for Christianity. It's a problem for social injustice. It's a problem on the political scale. It's a problem socioeconomically, is that we're always having to regurgitate the same conversation. And that in itself can be deplorable.
Yeah, you actually dropped the video for that song the next day after the battle. So what was that process like, filming a video? I'm not sure exactly when you did it, but I saw there were face masks and everything. So I assume you filmed the video during the pandemic. So you just felt the need to, we have to put a visual to this right now?
Yes. Just because visuals continue to just tell the story of what people naturally feel, just because sometimes music can be so at times disposable, and sometimes the visuals last longer for us. And so I just was really hoping that we could be able to put a visual moment to the song so that people can be able to hold on to something that looks like them and feels like them. And in my visuals, I was very inclusive, that we just don't see Black and brown brothers and sisters. I wanted to see all people that are suffering the same struggle, just because, everybody is not your enemy. And so I wanted to show the pain of just humanity right now. And so I hope I did an okay job with that.
Great job.
Kirk, I want to go back to something you was talking about how things, haven't changed. Because I saw you tweet on May 29th, pain loses its hearing. After centuries of broken promises, it becomes numb and deaf to anything except tangible change. You cannot love people and not be shook to your core by the optics against humanity. Help. Expound on that, please.
Well, I don't know how I could say it any better than you did, and plus you got that Charlamagne tone, so it sounded a lot more powerful. That if we are from the same origin, we are all from the same dirt. Scientifically proven that we all come from the soil of Africa. So we all have some type of genetic code inside of us that makes all of us humans. That's why we don't see animals cry when they kill each other, just because humans possess a soul that should be universal when somebody aches. And so when you don't have sorrow in your heart, when humanity hurts, there is a deafening inside of your humanity. There is something inside of you that is deceased. And I don't care how much you lift your hands or what God you pray to, because everybody on this planet has a God. It could be the God of money, the God of power, the God of sex. Everybody has a God. And so if you can see people suffering and screaming for help, if I was drowning, Charlamagne, and if you drove by me, and if I was drowning in the lake, and if you pulled to the side of the lake, and if you started saying to me, swim harder, paddle, doggy style, and if you took a book about how to swim and threw it at me in the water, in your mind, if you think that you're helping me, you've lost your mind. I'm drowning. As I don't need for you to pull over and throw a book at me. As I don't need for you to yell to doggy paddle. I need for you to get your ass in that water. And I need for you to come swim, because I've been drowning for a long time, and I need for you to come get me out of that water.
Now, Kirk, I can't swim.
Kirk, can you swim?
I can swim. I'm a black man that can swim.
Me too.
Well, you'll be coming to save me.
You said doggy style. It's doggy paddle. I don't know what you're thinking about, but it's doggy.
You know what he was
doggy
thinking
style?
about.
Is I said doggy style?
No, it's not doggy style.
It's doggy paddle.
We already know what happened
what
after
I
the
said?
battle. We saw you tell your wife you're gonna lay hands on her. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Kirk, what do you say? What do you say to a lot of Christians who have received backlash for saying that we need to pray for the cops who were involved in George Floyd's murder, or we need to forgive the cops? What are your thoughts on that?
As I said, that it's horrible timing. It's horrible timing. It's almost like we need to say, then we need to say that we need to pray for the Roman soldiers that killed Jesus. Then say that. Then say that you need to pray for the man that shot Dr. King. Then say that. Say it. And if you're going to say it loud. So
you don't agree with that?
So I don't agree with the timing. I disagree with the timing. The Bible says, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. Right now, we're in a mourning state, and mourn with us. That is just, it makes Christianity duplicitous when you have those type of statements. And that's why people do not trust. We are already trying to deal with the narratives of the weaponized version of Western Christianity that we've been dealing with for centuries, and trying to let people see that there is a true understanding of our Christian faith that is historically true, that is relevant and viable, even in the sub-Saharan parts of North Africa, centuries before the transatlantic slave trade, centuries before colonialism, that there were black men, Augustine, Origen, there was Clement of Alexander. You talk about a legitimate faith that has been demonized, that has been dirtied up by an agenda that does not look like Jesus. And so I'm just trying to rewrite that narrative. And so I'm not praying for anybody right now. I'm mourning with my brothers and sisters. And if white Christians want to have that conversation now, then I think that they need to check their motives and intent.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. You know what?
That's real.
Usually people say, no, you got to pray for the people that's hurting you. And I always say, I can't. I can't pray right now because I haven't forgiven them yet. And that's the first time I've heard anybody say that. Usually people are like, no, we have to pray. You know, the person that came in and shot the people in the church, we have to pray for that young man. We forgive him. I can't forgive him because I'm still mourning. Yeah. And now, mind you, I think that it's heroic when you have families right after the Charleston killing that said that we're going to pray for this young white young man. How heroic and how much I want to be like that. And I do believe that God allows in different periods of history those moments that we can try to aspire to. But it should not be a judgment against those that can't do it at that moment. Right.
It should not be a judgment.
I don't
that that there's a duality, and we can live in both. We can live in both at the same time.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Kirk. I don't believe them when they do that. Like I was born in Charleston, raised in Moncks Corner, right next to Charleston. I don't believe them when they forgive that quick. Like it's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually impossible to get to a place of forgiveness that fast. I don't believe it.
I agree.
Well, you know what, bro, is that I can totally understand what you're saying, that for your state in your mourning and your pain. But I do believe, in my humble opinion, this is my humble opinion, that there is a supernatural power that God can give Coretta Scott King when her husband was martyred for the sake of freedom, that gives her the power to march and stand and to pray and to keep the narrative going. And I believe, if I believe in God, then I got to believe in a supernatural power that can supersede and even trump my human emotions and being. Now, there's no scientific evidence for it. There's nothing tangible in any data, but that's what the spiritual is. That the spiritual, it exists past our ethos. And so because it does, then we've got to believe that if there is a God, then there's a hand bigger than our finite minds. Just because, remember, we're finite. There is a limit to our understanding. There is a limit to our reach. But when you talk about an infinite God, then that infinite God can give you supernatural. Think about it, man. Just look at all the people. Look at all the hell black folk been going through for centuries, and still we're some of the most powerful people on the planet. And when you look at that, I mean, bro, like, and now I'm getting excited. Let's keep it no cap right here. Look at all of the hell our forefathers and mothers went through. And you didn't hear a lot about suicide. You didn't hear a lot about people just ending it all. You hear more about, listen, our great grandmamas and grandparents, they were not cashing out like we are right now. And they were going through some of the most demonic trauma and all the PTSD that a lot of them lived through, but they were still holding on, still believing that God was going to make a way out of no way. And if they could have done it without the resources that they had during Jim Crow, then there's got to be a supernatural power that we cannot explain.
Right, just how people grieve differently. At some points, for people, their faith is what will get them through certain things, and that might mean prayer and forgiveness, because that helps you as a person to go on.
While at the same time, I can also co-sign Charlamagne and anybody else that if you're not there, we need to not judge people if they not there. If they not there, man, let's mourn with them. That's what I'm saying, is that there's a duality, that we can be both. We don't have to be either and, that we can be both at the same time, and God still be with both of us.
I always ask people, at times like this, a lot of times people are trying to get their faith and losing faith a little bit, from COVID-19 to coronavirus. And people open up their small business, and then their business gets looted. Yeah. What do you tell those individuals?
Oh, man. First of all, incredible question. And I think that it's very important to say to people that I don't have all the answers. One of the most prolific statements that you can sometimes say is, I don't know. But I do want to say this: what I don't know does not cancel out what I do know. And so what I do know still has a validity in the midst of the battle. And I can say to people that I was abandoned as a child. I was adopted at the age of 4 by a 64-year-old woman. I heard my biological mother tell that lady, at 13, she had visited once and said, I didn't even want him. I wanted an abortion, and you wouldn't let me. My father did one thing for me, gave me a haircut when his father died for the funeral. Never did anything else for me. I had ADHD. Kids laughed at me because I was a church boy. I dropped out of high school. I had learning disorder, got a kid. When I was 17, the church kicked me out. I found that same lady that adopted me dead and asleep. And I remember going to the pawn shop, cashing, trying to pawn her wedding ring that she left to me because I was hungry, living in her house that was not full of rats. And so how can you take somebody like me with no education? I'm vertically challenged. I can't sing. And my career has lasted for over 3 decades. It's not because I'm the dopest. There's so many people that are greater and better than me. It is only the grace and testimony of Christ. And so I try to let people know that if he can do that for me, he can do that for you, that he can rebuild whatever's been destroyed, because he's a God that's not finished with us.
Hey, Kirk, as a fellow vertically challenged man, it's not like you playing basketball. Okay, so let's not act like let's not act like the height has a real factor in anything that you're doing. Okay.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Now, I want to talk to you about.
To make it light for me.
Now, I want to talk to you about strong God, because you said until lives matter more than tithes matter. Ooh, let me hear you diss some of these pastors making all this money.
Oh yeah, once again, there are brothers and sisters that are in the battle that don't always reflect what the battle should look like. Even if you have a president that is walking in front of a church yesterday holding up a Bible, well, he must ain't read Psalms 119, because Psalm 119 says, hide thy word in thy heart, not hold my word in thy hand. And so there are a lot of hypocritical images in every community. And so that's why you try to see me be very verbal about the mistakes of Christianity, the sins of Christianity. As Gandhi famously said, I like your Christ, but not your Christians. Your Christians are nothing like your Christ. And so I can co-sign with that. I can concur. And so, but it does not mean that there are some men and women that have not been transformed by the incredible eternal message of the gospel. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. These are messages. And so when people make money and make God a lottery, then they are missing the divine purpose of why Christ would give his life for everybody. There's not a person on this planet that Jesus don't love.
Kirk, while you're at home during this time, have you been inspired musically just by everything that's going on around you? I know it's a difficult time for a lot of people, but for you musically, have you been writing at home during this time?
If I can be honest with you, one of the reasons why I wore this shirt today is because I started back going to therapy during this pandemic. I can be honest now, as I've been going to therapy now off and on for about the last 30 years, dealing with my abandonment issues, dealing with, just the rejection I had as a kid, a lot of the trauma that I've suffered as a young man. And so therapy and my faith have been they've just been my lifeboat. And so the trauma of first of all, the pandemic, and then now what's happening now is that I started going back to my therapist, and I can be honest and tell you that the motivation to do a lot of music, it's been off and on just because I've been just really struggling. I've been really struggling trying to get people just to hold on. It's almost like, where does the physician go when he's sick? And so, I'm getting myself back together just because I think that y'all needed Sunday, but I needed Sunday too. I needed that Verzuz moment too. I needed to be reminded too, because this has been hell. This has been hell.
What you been doing? Teletherapy, or you been actually going to see somebody?
Oh no, man! I've been going
during quarantine. Okay.
That's dope, and I'm proud of you, and I'm very proud of you. Wait, and then remember, you live in a part of the country, that the COVID crisis really hit really hard. Down here in Texas, we were able to kind of maneuver a little bit more. It didn't hit the state as hard, or it didn't hit the region that I'm in as hard. So we were able to maneuver a little bit, still continue social distancing. And so, yeah, man, and I've been praying for y'all up there on that East Coast, because that has been painful to watch.
Now, what have you been going through? Because you said you were going through a lot, and I'm sure people are going through the same thing. What were you dealing with that you said, I got to go see a therapist right now? Was it anxiety? What was it that you said, I have to?
Yeah. Well, I've always struggled with anxiety. And then, just as a creative, I think almost every creative, and I'm quite sure all three of y'all feel this, just because y'all are curators. And then the attention that y'all get and just the gravity of y'all's platform, to whom much is given, much is required. And a lot of times people don't know. And I'm quite sure y'all can amen this. When you live in the public eye, your highs and your lows are different. Mm-hmm. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And so, And so that type of pressure that you live up under is not realistic, because most humans were not created to have to live up under spotlights and microphones and cameras and have everybody kind of critique everything that you say. So that type of pressure can be a lot of times overwhelming, just because it's not human to live up under that type of pressure all the time. So, you know, just in the pressures of the world, or people trusting that you always got to answer and that you always having to be ready to give an answer, can be very discouraging, can be very heavy. And I carry the weight of people's hurt very real. Like, bro, like no cap, I'm telling you, I would not be doing this music if I did not believe in the dude that I rock with. And so when I see people hurt, that's real to me. When I see the embarrassing things that Christianity can do, that's real to me. So it's like, I got to have somebody to be able to blow off this team. I can't go to wifey with that every day. You know, she need me to be strong with her. So it's like, I got to go to somebody who I can go, man, these Christians are pissing me off. Man, this is pissing me off. It's like, man, somebody else got shot. Man, what do I do, man? It's like people ain't working right now, you know, and I got a whole crew that I got to take care of, man, you know, and so that type of pressure is I need somebody to pour into me so that when I get on these incredible platforms with y'all, I'll have something to be able to say.
Absolutely.
Hey, Kirk, you know what's so interesting, man? You know, prior to the quarantine, my therapist had been trying to tell me for the longest, let go of things that you can't control. You know what I mean? And I could never grasp that concept until the quarantine, because we had never experienced anything like coronavirus. So you know what I did? I flipped it, right? I started leaning more into my faith side, because I already had gotten what I needed from going to therapy all of these past couple of years. So I started leaning into my faith side. So it was more Bishop T.D. Jakes, more Stephen Furtick, more Pastor John Gray, more Minister Farrakhan. You know what I mean?
And I think that is the job that I want to be able to communicate to culture as well. Is that at the end of the day, you are spiritual beings. Is that if you live your life dependent upon the natural world to be able to feel something that the natural world does not have the ingredients to do. That's why no matter how good sex has been for a lot of human beings, a lot of people don't stay with that same one. You're always looking for something different. No matter how much that drug made you feel at that moment, you're looking for the next high, just because the natural world can't speak to the depth of the cry of your soul. Your soul was created for something bigger that the human world is not able to fulfill it with. And so that's why I'm always trying to be a messenger to clean up what a lot of the history of Christianity has messed up, because Christianity and Jesus are not always synonymous.
Explain a little bit.
Well, Christianity is the form in which we try to communicate what the teachings of Jesus is, or what the teaching of Jesus was. But in the sinfulness of man, throughout the narrative of that historical context, there has been a lot of distractions. There's been a lot of abuse of power. There's been a lot of misuse of the statements of Jesus Christ. There's been a lot of abuse and manipulation and deceit. But that does not mean that the historic individual of Jesus Christ and what he stood for and for what he preached is always reflected in the actions historically, whether through the Crusades, whether through the conquest, whether through Jim Crow, whether through colonialism. Christianity was always leading in those narratives, and we've got to confess those sins. In order to get it right, we've got to confess what's wrong. And so that's why I'm always an advocate for platforms like apologetics, to be able to communicate the historical accurate narrative of the gospel of Jesus Christ, as well as pointing out the bull and the foolishness that Christianity historically has done.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you, brother, for joining us.
I got one last quick question for Brother Kirk. I was watching Bishop T.D. Jakes Sunday, and this is a conversation that a lot of me and my folks have been having. Do you believe, Kirk, that we're in the end of times?
You know, there are different conversations that would fall up under eschatology, and eschatology is basically the study of the end times. And I think that a lot of people can be so enamored with the conversation of what does this mean versus what do we do. Is I think that it's easier to try to figure out what's happening out there instead of looking at this moment to see what needs to be fixed in here. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Perfect sense.
And so
Perfect
I would
sense.
encourage people to stop trying to be so worried about where God is instead of trying to be more focused on, is God with me? Just because a lot of our actions don't reflect that God is with you. And I'm talking to these yet to be United States of America.
All right.
Well, always a pleasure talking to you, my brother.
Now,
we appreciate your prayers for us, and just so you know, I'll be praying for you as well, as I know you said you've been going through some difficult times.
Absolutely. You got to leave us with a prayer, though, brother.
Wow.
I mean, it's only right.
Man, I'm humbled. Man, Father, I don't even know what to say to you sometimes in the midst of this, because I don't always understand what your hand is doing. But I've come to understand that when I cannot trace your hand, that I can trust your heart. And that I can also believe that when the world is out of control, that does not mean that you are still not in control. And I do want to say to you, Father, if you've ever been trying to get our attention, you have our attention now. Whatever you want to say to us, Lord, we want to have hearts to hear. And I know that we come sometimes with our own biases, our own prejudices, our own ideals of who you are. But instead of us trying to make you out to be what we think you are, God, I'm asking you by faith, show us who you are. Show us your face. Let us see your hand. Reveal yourself to us in this pandemic, because we have 2 pandemics happening, 3 pandemics, financially, socially, politically, spiritually, more than one just pandemic, that we're asking you to be the sovereign God that you are and hear the hearts of your people. And Lord, I know right now it is so difficult to trust because we're so broken and fragile. So God, I'm asking you right now, have mercy. Have mercy on us. In your name, Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen. My brother, thank you, man.
We
always a pleasure,
you so much,
King.
Man.
No, man. And yo, look at it. Let's go.
And send all your send my love and blessings to your family, man, your wife and everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all so much, man. This was an honor. This was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. It's Kirk Franklin. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning. Thank you, brother.